What's up? This is EJ Stewart.
What if I dropped 40 days, 40 nights?
One, you can't do it.
All you are your words. If there's anything you learned about me, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you.
Every morning, every night, for 40 days.
Going to be a long 40 days this year.
My skill shot will hold for your city for 40 days, 40 nights.
Rest in peace to all my ops.
For 40 days. If I can do that, then everything will be okay.
You're the guy who can't finish a sandwich. You think you can go 40 days? This isn't normal!
Oh, you're wrong, brother. I'm gonna go the distance.
Let's go! Mic on now? Yeah, there you go. You should be able to hear me now. What's up? This is EJ Stewart. This is 40 days, 40 nights, man. This is, again, this venture we're doing, 40 days, 40 nights of EJ Stewart hosted shows here on New Generation Media. That is the YouTube channel. Of course, we're also streaming live on both Instagram and on X. So if you follow me on Instagram, Action EJ, follow me on X, EJ_Stewart. You also catch the live stream. We're also posting the podcast up to our audio pages as well. So the podcast, find it on New Generation Podcast Network. Find that Apple Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and TuneIn. Day 1, night 1, day 2, all posted on the podcast. Apologies for early on if you were watching day 2. I was cooking with gas. We were talking about some Black Panther stuff, and ironically, of course, we get more Black Panther news today. But we're talking Black Panther news, and I guess Disney pulled the plug on me. Disney must have pulled the plug on me. I was getting too real about what was going on in the conversations about the future of the Black Panther, and they pulled the plug on me. My internet went out, and it was nothing I can control. It was not anything in their apartment or anything with my work. It was just an outage with my internet provider, so that was unfortunate. Not expecting any issues, so we should be all good to go for tonight's show, and this one will be a doozy because we got a lot to talk about. Massive news in the NFL. We'll get to in just a moment about Mike Tomlin's firing. We'll also talk a lot of NBA today because a lot of weird stuff going on. There was some Draymond Green stuff that I thought was bizarre in terms of a trade proposal he had for my New York Knicks that didn't make a lot of sense. So we'll talk about that. Lakerland, also maybe some trouble in paradise. Lakers reportedly unhappy with the Lebron James associate. So we'll talk about that as well. And we're going to get some baseball in here too because the Mets, it's a very EJ-centric show. You got some Knicks stuff, Mets stuff here, because now you got the Mets apparently have officially offered Kyle Tucker a massive deal. We'll get you guys details on that. And like I said before, we will talk about the latest news happening with Marvel and the new teaser dropped earlier today for Avengers Doomsday. So plenty to get to on this show. Really excited to get things rocking here. Again, this is 40 days and 40 nights hosted by your boy, EJ Stewart. Should be a fun one we got locked in here as we get it going. So let's begin with Mike Tomlin. This was the news that shocked a lot of the football world earlier today. Mike Tomlin officially resigning as Steelers head coach. He stepped down. And I think, the people who cover the Steelers, cover the NFL, have made it extremely clear this was not a firing. This was Mike Tomlin going to the Steelers today, telling them, it's been a fun ride. It's been a great journey. I don't think I want to coach here anymore. I'm going to step down from my role as Steelers head coach, which leads to a lot of conversations and a lot of dominoes are going to fall in a major way. I think the funniest thing, though, before we even get to that, was the reaction, which was kind of like, oh, my God, it's really happening. Like Mike Tomlin, this guy who's been here for 19 years, is finally leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers, and albeit be a rival, to have maybe the funniest reaction to this. This was Steve Bisciotti, who is the owner of the Baltimore Ravens. He got word from the reporters in his press conference, just addressing the team, addressing the future of the situation with their coaching search and their offseason coming up. He gets word in the press conference from the reporters that Mike Tomlin is stepping down, and here's his reaction. And if you have kids at home or you have kids listening, there is a curse here, so apologies for that. I know it is a family show, but there is a little curse here, so there's apologies for that.
Mike Tomlin stepped down at Pittsburgh.
He did? Is it official?
That's what I keep hearing. So, is he a candidate here?
Holy shit, Mike, wouldn't that be awesome? Only if John takes the Pittsburgh job.
I mean, I love the laugh track in there, which is like kind of funny. It was a funny line for sure, but it's almost like a comedy laugh track. You know, it's like you're watching that '70s show, or you're watching Fresh Prince. Punchline, then laugh. But shout out to Steve Bisciotti, very funny reaction there. I love his line being like, "Oh, we'll consider Mike Tomlin if maybe John Harbaugh goes to coach the Pittsburgh Steelers." And wouldn't that be the funniest thing if somehow this all ends up with Mike Tomlin beating the Ravens, getting John Harbaugh fired from the Ravens, and then if he then became the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? That I don't think will happen. I think that is too weird. I think it's even more weird if Mike Tomlin found his way in Baltimore. I don't think that's happening either. So, and I don't think, obviously, because of the situation we'll get to, which is he is not fired, he stepped down, the compensation would have to come from a team giving it to the Steelers. The Ravens and the Steelers are not making a deal for Mike Tomlin to be the head coach of the Ravens. So it's an appropriate reaction to kind of laugh off the idea of Mike Tomlin becoming the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens. But a stunner nonetheless. I said it earlier today. I feel like I've been batting 1,000 for a lot of the things that have been happening since we started this show. I said earlier today, if I was Mike Tomlin, I don't know why you want to come back. They're a team that's in limbo. He has proven that he is a definitely a proven winner, a guy that can get you to the playoffs, a guy that can instill a level of professionalism and a level of a winning culture that I think any organization would be fond of, maybe except for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like, it became very clear within that community that he was not being appreciated for what he was bringing to the table because they were not getting it done in the playoffs. It's a reality. Again, I showed you guys the tweet earlier from my guy Andrew Filipponi down in Pittsburgh. 7 straight postseason games. The Steelers at one point in the game, and all of them are losses, they trailed by 21 points. These games haven't been, the Steelers are like playing close games and they're losing heartbreakers. They're getting blown out in these playoff games. So the Steeler fan, who they look at themselves as they should, as a first-class organization, one of the premier organizations in the NFL, the fans grew tired of Mike Tomlin. And I think the community grew tired of Mike Tomlin, not the man. He seems to be a very honorable man, a very likable guy. He always rates super high on all polls from players about who do you want to play for and people that are most respected and well-liked in the league. Tomlin always at the top of those lists. He's extremely well-respected and well-liked. And he's also a damn good coach, to be clear. But within Pittsburgh, for what they want, which is they want to get back that hunt and that salvation that starving that they have for a Super Bowl championship, they want to get that feeling back. They want to get that feeling that they are close, that they're knocking on the door. And they weren't with Tomlin. It's just a reality. And there was zero path for that to happen with the way things were going. Mike Tomlin's not going to be able to tank. The Steelers are going to be too good of a team to ever get their franchise quarterback through the draft. Trading for a franchise quarterback, we know, is extremely difficult. Not impossible, but extremely difficult. So good luck to the Steelers trying to find a way to get to the Super Bowl, where you got a division that has Lamar Jackson. You got a conference that has Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, and obviously Josh Allen. And now maybe Drake May is a factor. Maybe Bo Nix is a factor. Like, the Steelers were starting to get laughed, and it was becoming very clear. So I said, I don't know why he'd want to be there. To me, go to another place where you can go and still your winning culture somewhere else where you'll be appreciated. Miami will appreciate going 9-7, 9-8, making the playoffs. Arizona will appreciate going 10-7 and making the playoffs. Like, those places will appreciate Mike Tomlin. And because he'll be able to start from scratch and he won't be so entrenched with some of those older veteran guys that he's had to really rely on, particularly mostly on the defensive side for the last 5-6 years, he can now build the team in his own way. He can start from zero, and maybe he'll give himself a better chance to win a championship. So it made sense for me for both sides. For the Steelers not to want him back, and then for Tomlin to not want to come back. We'll never, I guess, know the answer whether or not the Steelers wanted him back because he resigned so quickly. Like, it was the next morning, he's out. So he did not get fired, to be clear. I know people keep putting out there he got fired. That's not what happened. But I am curious, as this day would have went on and we went into the next day, would he have actually gotten fired at a certain point? That's an answer we will never know. But I do know there are a lot of folks in Pittsburgh who are celebrating Mike Tomlin's success in his tenure because it's unprecedented. 19 years, you haven't won losing season. But I think also people are celebrating the idea of change and the idea that maybe things could get better. Now, things could also get a lot worse. That's the thing about when you got an entrenched coach who's highly successful, is there's the flip side that you could make a terrible decision and a terrible hire or get the wrong guy in, and all of a sudden things aren't so great. But I think the Steeler fan, and I think deep down that Steeler organization also, and I, hearing some of the reporting, I was watching a lot of NFL Network today. There's kind of the innuendo that like the Steelers are like, okay, this now gives us the opportunity to kind of maybe move on from some of these guys that we wanted to move on from a while ago, but we couldn't because we had Tomlin here. Like they've had, again, a lot of older veteran guys. I think Cam Hayward's probably seen his last days as a Pittsburgh Steeler. I would bet you some other guys who, if they've kept around, may end up going back on the trade block. I wonder if TJ Watt goes on the trade block, considering now, again, if you're the Steelers, you consider the tank. Because the other domino, the big domino, we'll get to the coaching side of this in a second. The other big domino is this all but confirms Aaron Rodgers' retirement. If there was any chance Aaron Rodgers was going to come back to the NFL to play again, it was only going to be for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was only going to be if Mike Tomlin was back. Because the only reason why he went to Pittsburgh was because of this long affinity he has had for Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin spoke about how it was this long courtship that went on for months where him and Aaron Rodgers would talk endlessly as he was trying to make his decision of whether or not he was going to join the Steelers and what that would look like. They are extremely close. They have become extremely good friends. They have a high level of mutual respect for each other. Aaron Rodgers is not coming back to play for Arthur Smith or play for a new coach that, to be named later. He's not doing that. So I think you could, put to bed any questions about whether or not Aaron Rodgers is coming back. He's done. That's the end of the Aaron Rodgers experiment in Pittsburgh. That's the end of Aaron Rodgers' career as an NFL quarterback, and he'll officially announce that retirement, at some point. I don't know if it's going to be soon. I don't know if it'll be months later, but that's going to come down the pipe. So that is one of the other big dominoes from this, is that this essentially ends Aaron Rodgers' time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, this is 40 days and 40 nights. You're watching E.J. Stewart here. We're talking about the resigning of head coach Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's the one big domino. Aaron Rodgers, he moves on. Other big domino you have to look into is where do the Steelers go now for head coach? Because this becomes maybe the crown jewel of this pool of coaching vacancies. Now, the actual team is kind of meh. Like I don't know if anybody's running to say, oh, I want to again coach a 37-year-old Cam Hayward, and I want to coach a team that doesn't have a quarterback and is drafting really low in the draft, so we're not going to be able to draft a guy super high. So from that standpoint, maybe not the most team that you're just running toward. That it is a decent roster. You still got Jalen Ramsey. You still got Joey Porter Jr. You still got Patrick Queen. They've got a lot of good players still on defense. The offense, they just got brought in DK Metcalf, so he's going to still be there. So you got some guys, but it's not like the best roster in the world. But it's a pretty good roster. You have a quarterback issue, but beyond just the roster, Pittsburgh Steelers brand is Teflon. It is one of the most respected brands in football. It is a large part because of how strong the ownership group is and how strong the front office is. They just know how to ensure they do not F stuff up. Like they're not F ups. Like they're consistent with their winning. It's a great community to be a part of. And if you're a head coach and you're looking for a place with stability, which is every NFL head coach, because the reality is, like I said earlier today, when Aaron Rodgers make this comment being like, oh, I don't know what happened, where all of a sudden coaches can be on the hot seat. I'm like, since the NFL was born, what are you talking about? This is the not for long league. So a head coach who enters a profession knowing that he can be fired in any given year sees a place where the last three head coaches all did like 15 to 20 year stints. They're looking at that being like, I got to get there. That's the place I want to go. So this is, the last three head coaches this franchise has had: Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. That spans back to like the 1970s, maybe the late 1960s. I'm not sure exactly when Chuck Noll started, but at the very least, the early 1970s to 2026. Only three head coaches. There's no other team in professional sports in North America or any other country in terms of professional sports. Maybe there's some college examples still. Even that's kind of going away. There are no other examples of teams that are able to have three coaches for the span of 60 years. That's unheard of. And that's what the Steelers essentially have done. So this now becomes a massive, massive job opening for a lot of these teams. And some of these teams are probably feeling a little frustrated, like, oh, man, our top option now becomes an option potentially for Pittsburgh, and that's going to be troublesome. Now, I think if you're the Giants, you're not someone who maybe is freaking out because, again, I think the odds of John Harbaugh going to the Steelers feels just weird. I can't imagine they would do that, but, I mean, who knows, I guess. So I think if you're Giants, and they've been all in on John Harbaugh. We got the reporting. I want to say it was yesterday or today. I'm not quite sure. It might have been after I recorded last night. I believe it was last night when we saw that Chris Mara, the brother of John Mara, he had already had lunch apparently with John Harbaugh before a formal interview has even happened. So the Giants are going full court press on this John Harbaugh thing. So maybe they're the one team who sees the Pittsburgh news. And also they kind of stand toe-to-toe with Pittsburgh for the most part. I know they've been a clown organization for the last 10 to 15 years because of their ineptitude. But again, the brand, the standard, what the Giants have meant to the NFL, they are one of the few organizations that get to stand next to the Steelers. So, okay, we're also one of the crown jewel jobs of the NFL. So Giants, maybe they don't care as much. But I do think if you're the Dolphins, I think that if you're the Ravens, if you're these other teams, you're probably like, oh, man, now we got to compete with the Steelers for, these coaches that we may want. And I'm very fascinated about what the Steelers are going to want to do. Because the Steelers, typically, they've gone for younger head coaches who are kind of more leaders of men, rah-rah type guys, as opposed to I'm an X and O you to death type guy, or older coaches who have coached in other spots before. They've only had 3 hirings again for the last 50 years, but all 3 hires they line up essentially the same way. Do they do that again? Do they go for a younger coach, a coordinator who has not had a head coaching job before? Remember, Mike Tomlin, when he got the Steeler job, he was a hot candidate because of what he did in just 1 year with Minnesota. He also was under the Dungy tree, so he was well respected, but he was extremely young and extremely new. And while people thought he'd be a head coach, I don't know if people thought he'd be the Steelers head coach, because the Steelers at that time when Cowher left, they had an awesome coaching staff. They had Russ Grimm, they had Ken Whisenhunt, I believe, may have been there. They had I think Dick LeBeau might have been there. I mean, they had a bunch of seasoned coordinators, seasoned coaches, people who had been around the NFL for a long time, people who have been around the Steelers for a long time, because Cowher was able to keep the staff together for so long that when Tomlin got hired, it was like, what the hell? Who the hell is this guy? Like, again, NFL circles knew he was a guy that was going to get a job, but the Steelers fans and people around Pittsburgh were stunned that he got the job. He came out of nowhere. He was, I saw today, he was actually their last interview. So I wonder if they're going to go that same route. Like, we could go and say, hey, they're going to go after, Arthur Smith and just promote him or someone within, but I don't know if they do that, to be honest. I think that, one of the names that have been mentioned that I think would be interesting is Brian Flores, because we know Brian Flores has the kind of elephant in the room that he is suing the NFL, and that lawsuit's not going away. It's a lawsuit for racial discrimination because, he is alleging the NFL has promoted, sham interviews through the Rooney Rule that has put black head coaches and other minority head coaches through interviews that were shams, that they had no chance to have, and that the NFL has a bias towards hiring white head coaches. He has not obviously got a head coaching job since that happened. He has been in the NFL, so he was, and the reason why he was in the NFL, because who gave him a job? Mike Tomlin. While all that stuff was happening, and I think a lot of folks, given how the NFL is, and given what we saw with Colin Kaepernick, where he had his situation with the NFL, and it was blackballed, you're done. I kind of think that people looked at Brian Flores, and if you really, can respect what he's standing for, which I certainly do, you can say I respect the move, but now I kind of wonder if this is kind of your last chance to coach in the NFL. Maybe you're going to have to go to college or something. Mike Tomlin took care of him. Mike Tomlin said, come on board. Our defense is struggling anyway. We could use a linebackers coach. Come over here and coach some defense. And he hired Brian Flores at a downtime. He'd just been fired by the Dolphins. He missed out on the Giants job. Now he's suing the NFL. And by all accounts, Brian Flores was a great asset to the Steelers, which, duh. I mean, we saw what he did with the Vikings after he left. But he was a great asset to the Steelers, great asset to their defense, and apparently he learned quite a lot from working under Mike Tomlin. Then, obviously, he went on to be the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator, and he's been a wizard coaching their defense the last few years. Is that someone the Steelers look back to and say, okay, for Brian Flores, there were a bunch of jobs I said I thought he'd be a good candidate for. Because of that lawsuit, you're always kind of holding the back of the head, like, is he really ever going to get hired? They'll hire him to be a coordinator. We know the Dallas Cowboys apparently may badly want him as a coordinator. We know plenty of other teams may want him as a coordinator. The Vikings may want to keep him as defensive coordinator because he's been so great there. But he's also getting head coaching interviews. But again, the lawsuit, is he really going to get hired? This is the one place where he may get hired. This is the one place that may say, we respect Mike T, we respect what he did, and we respect his opinion on guys, and we know how he feels about Brian Flores. He gave him an opportunity. He has sung his praises since he left here. Brian Flores has only done great work since he left. Maybe this is a guy we look at and say, okay, we'll give him that opportunity because we're the Pittsburgh Steelers. We operate kind of outside of the rest of these NFL peasants, these other people. Like, we don't care about major lawsuits. We don't care about all that crap, just like they didn't when they hired him the first time. They say, we don't care about this stuff. We're going to do whatever is best for our organization. Because in some ways, we're as big as the Shield. We'll just hire Brian Flores because we think he's the best candidate. That's a possibility. Now, again, he does not, he's young on the younger side, but he does not necessarily fit the mold of young coach that could be your coach for 30 years. I mean, he is young, but he has been in the NFL circle for a while now. He's been a head coach before, and he's been fired before. So he's been through a little bit of the rinse and recycle kind of, system that is the NFL head coaching carousel. So that's one option I think that you'll hear that will certainly make some sense considering the Steelers and what's been a problem for them. As much as their offense has been a major problem, we'll get to some offensive guys soon too. The defense and the setback it's taken over the last few years has also been quite noticeable, particularly against the run. So I think if you're a Steelers, you talk about your identity, always going to be on the defensive side of football, being physical and tough and aggressive. Brian Flores is all those things in terms of how he coaches defense, so he would make sense from that standpoint. The other side is, again, do you do the coordinator thing? Do you do the let's get the guy who's never been a head coach before but is young, exciting, and we think that we could get him to get this job, and through the Pittsburgh Steelers way, through the community, through what we know as building championship teams, we can support this young guy to get him to be the coach we need him to be for the next 20 years. That brings me to other people. That brings me to a guy like, and this is an interesting name, and I'm very curious to hear what will happen with this gentleman because he kind of recently said that he was not going to leave the place he's at. I wonder about Marcus Freeman for this job. If I'm going at what the Pittsburgh Steelers typically do in terms of the kind of guy they go for, young, rookie NFL head coach with kind of a cult of charisma, a charismatic figure who is a leader of men, more so than, like, again, an X's and O's type guy, a guy that could be a true CEO of an organization. That has essentially been the appeal for Marcus Freeman, the head coach of Notre Dame, for these NFL teams that have been interested in him. So I do not like the fit with the Giants. I've made that 100% clear. The Steelers' fit intrigues me a little bit more because of those things I mentioned. I think the Giants actually, they're chaotic to me. The players are missing meetings. Jackson Dart thinks he can do whatever the hell he wants on the field. I don't know if, like, getting a rookie head coach is the best thing for them. The Steelers have a locker room of strong leaders. They have a front office of strong leadership. I think Marcus Freeman could maybe do a much better job with this situation than he would maybe going to the Giants or some of these other teams. I think that he will be a candidate potentially for this job. He has his first press conference. He has not spoken since this whole offseason has gone down. Since I think maybe he spoke maybe after the whole college football playoff thing. But, all the reporting that he was, he is still being courted. He put out that statement from Notre Dame saying that I'm staying at Notre Dame. We're going to run it back. It's going to be a great year. And apparently NFL teams are like, okay, yeah, whatever. When are you coming in for an interview? That is the reporting so far. They don't care about what he's saying about, wanting to stay at Notre Dame. So I wonder, maybe with those other jobs, he may look at that and say, I'm not getting out of bed for the Raiders when I coach Notre Dame football. The Steelers are the kind of job that if you're going to leave Notre Dame football to go to the NFL, the Steelers are one of the jobs where I would even suggest you probably take that. That is truly one of the once-in-a-lifetime kind of opportunities as an NFL head coach. Like I said, they've had 3 coaches for 60 years. What you could do, the foundation you could lay is endless. You could be anything you want to be as opposed to being an NFL legend, a coaching legend. So that's the kind of opportunity I would be interested in. The other guy I'm interested in, this is a name that's been coming up a ton, Nate Scolassi from, and forgive me if I'm not getting his name pronunciation correct, but this is a guy who also reminds me a bit of Tomlin in this coaching search. He's been getting a bunch of interviews, and a lot of folks are being like, who the hell is this guy? I actually show his picture as soon as my screen share will work this time, and that's always, we always know. It's people for the 2 days we've done the show. It's a little bit of a hit or miss, but let's see if we can get it going here. There you go. This guy right here. He's been the kind of the hot name everybody's been talking about in terms of like a lot of people aren't familiar with his work, but he's got a lot of support from from Sean McVay and what he's done for the Rams offense, and we've seen their passing game just take a leap this year. I mean, you've seen what Matthew Stafford has done. Last year he was good. This year he's been MVP level. And this has been the guy that's been putting together their passing game along with Sean McVay. And Sean McVay has said that Nate is going to be an NFL head coach at some point. And people are already kind of looking at him with this Steeler job and wondering, is he possibly a guy that they would look at if you're looking for an offensive coach? Because that's how it goes off. I'll get myself back here. But because the Steelers, again, are you going to do the Arthur Smith thing? The offense hasn't looked great with him since he's been under Mike Tomlin. I don't know if he has done a good enough job to where I'm saying, all right, now I'm going to give him the keys to this, again, Ferrari of a head coaching job. Not quite sure about that. Some of these other candidates that are out there, are you going to... The weird thing about it is some of the top candidates are people within their division. Like, in a vacuum, Kevin Stefanski will be a high-end candidate for any of these coaching jobs. Are the Steelers going to hire the Browns head coach? That seems unlikely. Are the Steelers, again, they got to hire John Harbaugh from the Ravens, that Ravens head coach? That seems unlikely. So now, okay, 2 of the top candidates are off the board. Mike McCarthy is someone that is intriguing to me. I know he's from Western PA, so I would assume this is probably his dream job. But the Steelers do not hire the Mike McCarthy archetype. That they do not hire, though, you've been a coach for 15 years and you're a retread and we're going to bring you in. That's not what they do. So now he's a very good offensive coach, and if offense is your concern, I think he would be an upgrade over Arthur Smith and what they've been doing. Definitely an upgrade over what they had previously with Matt Canada. Give me a break. So, and he has a championship. He has a pedigree. So if the Steelers, we're going to learn a lot about Art Rooney II in terms of how different he may be from Dan Rooney or from the original Art Rooney. And is he going to be about keeping the Steeler way, where we're going to hire a young guy, support him, and hope that his charisma and his leadership and his natural leader of men qualities carries through with a strong coaching staff, and we could have this guy here for 20 years? Or do they try to kind of quote unquote get with the times and say, hey, we're gonna actually go the other way. We're gonna actually go with all these other NFL teams are doing. We're gonna just get one of these guys who is in this cycle that is successful. We're gonna get to this next level. We don't want to take a step back. We don't want to rebuild. We want to try to see if we can get this thing revved up to a Super Bowl. So if that's the case, you hire again a Mike McCarthy or some of these other retread type guys. It'll be very interesting to follow. I think this is again a massive job opening, and Mike Tomlin and his future is interesting. So this will be the last thing on the Tomlin note before we move on. So Tomlin now is stepping down. He's not been fired, which means he cannot just go around and say, all right, you know what, I'm going to interview the New York Giants tomorrow. That's not how this works. Because he stepped down and he was not fired, any team that wants Mike Tomlin for the duration of his contract, I think he has 3 years left. I believe he's on a contract extension last year that gave him, he actually may have 2 more years left. I don't know exactly what it is. It's either 2 or 3. It's not 1. So unless he's going to sit out for a while, he's under contract still with the Steelers. So they have his rights. Mike Tomlin, if he wants to say, you know what, I want to coach somewhere next year, the Steelers may let him, but they also are going to say, all right, fine. that team's gonna have to give us some draft capital. And considering Sean Payton when he left the Saints and then he took a year off and then went back to the NFL to coach the Broncos, the Saints got a first-round pick out of that. I would anticipate that would be the same price for Mike Tomlin. Similar resumes, long-time winning, one-time Super Bowl champion head coach. I would assume Mike Tomlin gets a first-round pick. So that's going to be the price for anybody that's trying to poach Mike Tomlin this year. And I'm sure, he's already being connected to the Miami Dolphins. I don't really know why, other than it's Miami and something Stephen Ross loves stars, I guess. I'm not 100% sure, but that is, he has been linked to that team. So I'm sure the Dolphins will make the call to Mike Tomlin. I'm sure every team will at least make a call, see what he's thinking. Early word, though, is that he may go to TV, which is fascinating. All the insiders keep pointing to Fox never replaced Jimmy Johnson as an open seat at the desk, which I'm like, it's not like there's a literal open seat at the desk. There's no chair there. Like, I just assumed they were, like, to me, especially with the way, businesses are, you're cutting costs. Oh, good, we, got rid of a high-priced guy, Jimmy. Now we can just, save that money. I didn't necessarily assume they were going to just say, oh, let's get a high-priced guy to replace Jimmy Johnson. But apparently this is a job that maybe Tomlin has had his eye on, or Fox has had his eye on him, or maybe a little bit of both. So TV could be in play for this. So this may not be a this year deal. This could be a next year deal, which I do think is interesting because if you're talking about a next year deal, I think some of these teams that kept their coaches who were on the hot seat, or some of these teams who are still keeping their coaches that are still playing, maybe not so fast, my friend, in terms of whether or not those coaches are actually safe. I think, if you're the Jets, Aaron Glenn kind of surprisingly got kept. If they have another bad year, Tomlin's out there. I know Aaron Rodgers will probably beg Mike Tomlin not to go there, but I'm certain Willie Johnson will make a call for him to maybe replace Aaron Glenn if it's 2 years in a row where Aaron Glenn doesn't look like he can coach. If you're the Buffalo Bills, and let's say you survive this postseason, but you don't win a championship again, and somehow you decide to keep Sean McDermott again, and he flops again next year, I would certainly assume the Buffalo Bills are going to say, let's call Mike Tomlin, and maybe he could be the guy that gets us over the hump. I think that there are a lot of these teams, man, that are kind of knocking on the door, or teams that are knocking on the door, or teams that have lost their way completely, but are keeping their coach because they want, for the sake of continuity, and they say, let's actually run it back, and let's actually circle back and run it back with this guy, and let's see what happens, because we don't want to, keep firing coaches every couple of years. There may be some teams who say, let's give a call to Tomlin next year. He's not going to be maybe in this coaching cycle, but there are going to be some jobs next year that certainly I think could open up where I think he could still definitely be in play. Again, the two jobs that came to mind immediately were the Bills and were the Jets. And I think there are going to be plenty of other jobs. I think another one, I would look at the Washington Commanders. Dan Quinn, a very kind of tumultuous year after an awesome first year, tumultuous second year. Injuries, how he used Jaden Daniels became a question mark. Fired both of his coordinators. This is a big year for Dan Quinn. If he screws this up, I don't think it's crazy that they may fire him. And oh my God, that would be just like easy plug and play. Mike Tomlin to the Commanders to coach Jaden Daniels. There are a lot of pieces that, again, guys that are safe this year. But I look at next year and I say, is there a fit next year if things go wrong for some of these places? So the Mike Tomlin, he's going to become the next boogeyman when it comes to head coaches. Like, you had Sean Payton was a boogeyman before. People were kind of waiting for Sean Payton to take somebody's job. I think Mike Tomlin is going to be the next boogeyman for however long he decides to stay out of the game, if indeed that is what he decides. But let's shift gears here. I want to get some Mets talk because there's some big news today. Mets officially, according to multiple reports, offering Kyle Tucker a deal that is believed to be worth at least $50 million of an average income every year. This is apparently a short-term deal. I keep hearing 3 years get thrown out, that it's like a 3-year, $150 million deal that maybe could go up to 175. There's been also reported that maybe the Mets would put in a fourth year if they needed to, or an option to get out early if he plays so crazy out of his contract that he wants to get a longer-term deal. This is apparently out there. So any conversation about what exactly the Mets' plans are, how they're going to approach this Kyle Tucker situation, we now know how they're approaching the Kyle Tucker situation. It is a short-term deal. It is worth $50 million per year. It will put him behind only Shohei and Juan Soto for highest paid guys on average annual salary. That is a lot of money to pass up if you're Kyle Tucker. But I think if you're Kyle Tucker and you're in the prime of your career, you're also looking like, man, I should be able to get these mega 10-year, 15-year kind of deals that Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani had. Like, he's not as good a player as those guys. I'm not saying he should make as much money, but the player with the Kyle Tucker profile don't typically sign for deals like this. So the fact that this is being thrown out there so publicly leads me thinking a lot of things. Number one, I'm very happy the Mets are at least in it. I don't know if I love this strategy, but it's a strategy they feel most comfortable with, so I got to live with that. I understand from their standpoint, they want to get a player like Kyle Tucker. I get why. He's a star. I think he would be a massive, massive addition for the New York Mets. I would love this move to death. Again, strategy, not withholding in terms of not going for the longer-term deal. But I would be a little concerned about seeing this deal being publicized so publicly, I guess is the way I could put it. Publicized so publicly in a way that would concern me a great deal. Because what I feel like is happening is what I saw happen with my New York Knicks for many years, which is people using your team to up the price for other teams because they don't actually want to go to the Mets. They want to go to the Dodgers or the Blue Jays. And getting those teams to say, hey, this is what's out there. I may take it if you don't ante up and give me the money in years that I want. The fact that this got so public, and we'll never know who's behind it. We don't know if this is Kyle Tucker's team who's putting this out there because they do want these other teams to say, hey, we may sign soon if you don't give us a deal. We don't know if this is the Mets who are maybe trying to apply some pressure on Kyle Tucker to be like, hey, you don't got really a great market. We're giving you $50 million a year. Come on, man, let's make this deal happen. We don't know why it is, but it's being put out there for a strategic reason. It's kind of rare we hear this is the contract offer that's being reported. That does not happen quite often. Usually, there's a bidding war. We don't know. People kind of guess what the contract terms are. We don't ever come in the report being like the headline, Mets offer Kyle Tucker deal. Usually it's someone signs Kyle Tucker or someone signs X player. There's fact that this is the headline, Mets offer Kyle Tucker deal. I've been waiting for them to say, and I kept getting tricked today because I keep seeing, Kyle Tucker in Photoshopped and Mets uniforms and being like, wait, did he sign or did he not sign? I keep seeing the offer. Where's the deal? He hasn't signed yet. I am not even a little. I am actually very concerned that this deal is getting publicized so much because I do feel like if I had to guess what is happening, I do think it is Kyle Tucker's team putting the bat signal out there to definitely the Dodgers and probably the Blue Jays and these other teams being like, this is what the Mets are offering me, man. Like, I want to sign a long-term deal. That's why I haven't signed this deal yet. So please give me more money. I think that's what's happening because the Dodgers have shown that they're not afraid to go big years, big money for a lot of players. So what's stopping them from going after a Kyle Tucker at this point in time? What I learned today was maybe some qualifying offer rules, which I was not aware of until today. But apparently both the Blue Jays and Dodgers are in this weird situation where because both of them signed players who were offered qualifying offers, those players and their teams get draft compensation for when you sign them. So the Blue Jays and the Dodgers are forfeiting their second and fifth round picks in the 2026 draft by signing the guys they got. The Mets, in terms of the Dodgers, they signed Edwin Diaz. And for the Blue Jays, they signed Dylan Cease. Kyle Tucker was also offered a qualifying offer that he declined. So they would now be in a boat where they'd be offering additional draft picks outside the second and fifth round pick they already lost. I think I saw it's like 3 and 6 now. And this would put those teams, whoever would make the decision to sign Tucker, in an unprecedented situation where a team has never done that, where they've been willing to offer for their first 6 round picks in a set and an MLB draft for the sake of signing players. That does not happen very often. Not to say that they wouldn't ever do it, but it just has never happened. And that could be why the Blue Jays and the Dodgers have maybe been kind of slow walking this pursuit of Kyle Tucker. We don't know. But we have heard this conversation about, the Dodgers and the Blue Jays particularly being willing to go for years, but clearly not at $50 million. I'm concerned that this is getting out there. I feel like at a certain point, the rubber may meet the road, and one of these teams say, you know what, screw it. We want Kyle Tucker because we want to get a championship. If you're the Blue Jays, you want to get that stitch out of what happened last year. If you're the Dodgers, you want to continue the dynasty that you have. And they say, we're going to come in, we'll get you the money we want. Maybe it's not $50 million, but maybe it's $40 million. Maybe it's for 6 years as opposed to 3 years. And I think he may say, that's good enough for me. And he signs on the dotted line. And the Mets get screwed again. So I'm hoping that this is not the Mets game played. I really, really hoping that is the case. If it is not the case, I'll be very clear. This makes up for all the crap that they went through with Alonso, with even a little bit with Diaz. Like, if they could add an offensive bat, the caliber of Kyle Tucker, to go with the fact that he's an outfielder, the fact that he can play. He wasn't a good defender last year, but he can play much better defense. I think that, and he's young. He's only 29 years old. I believe he's 28. He's going to be 29 in a couple of days. So he's in the firm prime of his career. And especially if you get him on 3 years, which means you're signing him, committed him only to what is essentially going to be the prime of his career. A lineup that includes Lindor, Soto, Tucker, Polanco. That's a lineup that should be able to do a lot of damage. Now, the Mets have put together lines that in theory have looked good on paper and have not performed on the field. But Tucker, Lindor, and Soto as your core of your lineup feels like that should be a team that's bludgeoning people. So I am really excited about the prospects of getting Kyle Tucker. I don't think this will be it for the Mets if they get Kyle Tucker. I think they'll probably not sign a pitcher, but I think they'll probably make a trade for a starting pitcher. They know they definitely are going to need another starter. And, you know, maybe the jury is a little bit out. We were very harsh on the Mets for a lot of this time for what they've done during this offseason, but actually now I wonder if there's a chance that we will see the Mets be in a position where we look at this offseason and say, oh, it started off rocky, but man, Mets now once again look like a championship contender. I think that is a possibility. Again, it's 40 Days, 40 Nights, hosted by your boy, EJ Stewart. We're talking Mike Tomlin to start the show. We've been talking Mets to start the show. If you want to comment on the show, I have my comments up, so I can read comments on the air. Shout out to my guy, Eric. Eric from Ronkonkoma, who he always listens to me on WFAN. He's up there. He was on the live stream. I'm not sure he's still on there, but he was on there on Instagram. Shout out to my guy, Eric. Always good to hear from him. Shout out to my guy, Reggie. Reggie also from my New York One days. He's watching the show, listening to the show. Loves the X-Men tee. Yep, this is the X-Men tee I'm rocking today. It is a Dark Phoenix X-Men tee. So this is like I'll actually stand up briefly so you can see. So this is her as the Dark Queen of the what's it called? The Black Queen, sorry, of the Hellfire Club. So this is the comic. As you know, she'd already been, Jean Grey had already been, kind of possessed by the Phoenix Force, and things look obviously good to start, and things obviously turn very south very fast. So this is her when she leaves kind of the X-Men to go to the Hellfire Club, and she starts kind of tripping out, and this is the cover for that. This is actually one of my favorite X-Men shirts. I don't wear it enough. I feel like this shirt is tough. This is also one of my favorite episodes from the X-Men the animated series too, when the episodes of with the Hellfire Club. So and I what's been cool about this time off. I mean, again, I keep saying outside not having the job, that has been cool. But what has been cool again is hearing the support I've gotten from so many of the people who have listened to my shows, whether it be on WFAN, whether it was me working on the Maggie and Perloff show, whether it be people who just follow my journey and follow what I've been doing. And I said one of the coolest things I got was a couple of weeks ago. I had a listener who tweeted at me that, one of the things that, used to make their day when they would watch the Maggie and Perloff show stream would be the T-shirts I would wear, because he had young kids who really weren't necessarily into sports, but, because I consider myself kind of a kid at heart, there's an XV line of why kid myself like I am to kid myself. I know I am 4 years old, but in some ways I still feel like a child because of my interests. And one of the tweets was like, what made my day was A, your guys' show, which was awesome, but B, seeing what shirt you were wearing that day. Because you wear all of these, I wear all these comic book shirts, all these cartoon shirts. I wear obviously also some sports shirts as well, but I some movie shirts. And he said that showing his kids what shirt I was wearing was actually like one of the highlights of their morning as they were getting ready for school. I've had a lot of awesome commentary about my contributions to all the shows I've done. That has been one of the coolest ones I think I've ever had, because anybody who knows me knows, and Andrea, my fiance, is probably like, you have too many freaking shirts. But I have probably hundreds of t-shirts in terms of different cartoons, superheroes, movies, all the nine. If I combine what I have here in my personal apartment and then what I have back in where my parents' house is, I also have a stash of shirts there too that I haven't worn in years, but still my shirts. I also have a lot of wrestling shirts. I'm a big wrestling fan, obviously. So I care a lot about what my t-shirt selection I choose. I actually wore the shirt earlier this morning. I'm wearing the same shirt I was wearing earlier today because I've been running around today a little bit. But yeah, shout out to my guy Reggie. He recognized the shirt. This is indeed an X-Men Dark Phoenix shirt, and we'll get some. This is actually an awesome segue. I didn't plan it for it to be this way, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I actually wasn't planning to go to the superhero content of the show, but let's just get there because we're already here. And like I said, when you follow this show, man, it's gonna be a lot of things. It's not just gonna be sports. It's gonna be all my interests, and that includes stuff happening with the Marvel and DC world. And we did get some big news happening with Avengers Doomsday. So a teaser dropped earlier today for Avengers Doomsday. So they've been putting these teasers out in the theaters, which has been a extremely controversial marketing campaign. They've been putting them out for people going to see the Avatar movie. And I guess if you see the Avatar movie, you can see these teasers. These teasers, of course, because of the internet, they've been leaking nonstop. They've been leaking sometimes before they hit the theaters. They've been leaking when they're in the theaters. So this one may have leaked, but it didn't have the kind of hoopla or a lot of at least the circulation of some of the other ones, like the X-Men one especially. That when Steve Rogers and the X-Men one, when that got out, that was everywhere. That was very easy to find when those leaked. This one I had not. It may have leaked, but I hadn't seen it. But this one was officially dropped earlier today, and it features the Wakandans, the Black Panther, and Ben Grimm, and also Namor. So obviously, because of the nature of YouTube, I prefer not to play the video. I'm not trying to get no copyright strikes or anything like that. But what I can describe from it is essentially it's kind of Shuri talking about, again, being like and I'm not sure if it's a conversation with M'Baku, but she's like, as I prepare for what's coming up to next, I need you to start preparing my people for what's coming in the afterlife. Which sounds very dubious. It sounds very dark. Like, I'm like, oh man, like, it's Doom got them in this kind of chokehold. Everybody that's talking about this guy, it sounds bad. Thor's a god calling on the gods to help him. Shuri's like, man, tell the Wakandans we cooked. I'm gonna go out there and fight, but this ain't gonna look good. So it does not look good for our heroes and the people that we are actually looking for. That is of great concern if you're rooting for our heroes. But the dope teaser, and you see Shuri walking in, and then by the way, again, there's a shot of the Atlanteans and a shot of Namor looking as badass as he always looks. I'm so happy that he's back into the fold. And there's a ship coming. And Shuri, kind of, it looks almost kind of like a desert-like atmosphere, walking towards, a person in the distance. That person introduces, M'Baku introduces himself as King of Wakanda. And if you've watched Black Panther Wakanda Forever, you know that the movie ends with M'Baku becoming the new King of Wakanda, even though Shuri is the Black Panther. And the person that puts out his hand to greet him is Ben Grimm. And he says, Ben Grimm, Yancey Street. Super dope. I get saying it, I get chills because because of the nature, and we talk about people who are carpetbaggers or people who are casuals who don't know much. So there are a lot of people on social media talking about how I guess because they got word about what this trailer was and maybe it did leak, but like, there's a weird interaction, weird introduction about that's going to happen in the Black Panther that's going to make people raise an eyebrow. And apparently this was it. It was the Fantastic Four being introduced to the Wakandans, which is nonsense. It's nonsense because actually it's the coolest thing they could have possibly done because the Black Panther was introduced, I believe, in the Fantastic Four. Like that, the Fantastic Four and their connections to the Black Panther comic book and the franchise and vice versa goes back 50 years. So the fact that maybe the first interaction we have with the Fantastic Four interacting with the rest of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is with the Black Panther and Wakandans is dynamite. I absolutely cannot wait to see this. This is going to be a ton of fun. This is actually my favorite teaser of them all. I like the X-Men teaser. I mean, Cyclops, I'm wearing an X-Men shirt, so, what more can I say, right? But, Cyclops in the blue and yellow costume, the visor off, just going ham with the Sentinels in the background. Again, you want to talk about goosebumps, totally there as well. I was, to be honest, and we have these conversations on the New Generation Hero Talk, which, again, if you love Marvel content, make sure you check out that podcast hosted by my brothers. Seeing Patrick Stewart and seeing Sarah Ian McClellan, not necessarily in fighting shape, I'm kind of like, all right, what is the X-Men side of this gonna look like? Now, the Cyclops side of this like gonna be badass, but I'm hoping that this is not kind of like let's throw them in there and kind of let them get killed off again and we move on, because Charles looked kind of not in great shape, and Magneto he's got his hair long and he's got a beard and he don't look all that great. I'm like, I thought we were gonna try to get these guys one last go around of looking like true badasses, and that's not really what we have here. So, and the mansion's destroyed again. So I seen a lot of posts being like, oh, we gotta see Charles Xavier get killed in the movie for the will now be the 4th time. We saw him killed in we saw him killed in the X-Men, the what's the name movie, the X-Men Last Stand movie. We saw him get killed in Logan. We've seen him get killed in now WandaVision, or not WandaVision, Doctor Strange. And now we're going to a 4th movie where maybe we'll see this guy get killed again. And I'm like, are we going to do this story again? Maybe. That may be where we're going with this. But to me, the fact that we got to see Thing interacting with M'Baku, and that, again, there's a potential that the first interaction the Fantastic Four have with the 616 Marvel Universe is with the Wakandans, which goes right into what the comic book lore is in terms of the introduction of the Black Panther to the Fantastic Four. This way, it's going to be the other way around, potentially. It's dope. It's super dope. I'm really excited about it, man. I see my guys going crazy in the comments, so I'm going to see if I can pull some of these up here. So shout out to, first of all, I want to give a shout out to Matthew Graves. I'll put his comment up there. What up, EJ, the Bionic EP? Glad to see you still putting out content. That's right, man. I am indeed putting out content. Like I said before, I'm doing it every weekday, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., 6 p.m., 40 days, 40 nights. For the next 40 days and 40 nights, I'll be putting content up. So if you want to hear me talk about sports, which I've been doing for the first hour of this show, also now getting into some Marvel stuff, make sure you check it out. Subscribe to the channel, New Generation Media on YouTube. And my guy Eric as well, talking about the king designation for M'Baku is very interesting. Given what they did, and I know, again, the whole decision with T'Challa remains controversial. Given what they did, I actually like this dynamic. I like their dynamic of Shuri and who she is, and feeling like being a queen is not what I am into. I want to just be the Black Panther, and I need someone else to do this. And M'Baku being embraced, and the Jabari tribe being embraced and uniting the kingdom, which is something that obviously, something that T'Challa ended up doing before he passed, and then M'Baku now going into that leadership role, definitely super cool. So I'm invested in it. I thought it was really cool to see him being introduced as the King of Wakanda. Also, Reggie, when I was talking about the introduction of Ben Grimm to the Wakandans and the Fantastic Four being introduced, also saying that's really cool. Totally do agree with that. And shout out to Reggie being also my fact check. Yes, it was T'Challa in a Fantastic Four story originally. I'm pretty sure that was right. I want to make sure I was right on that. So yeah, this is gonna be dope. This is gonna be dope. I know there's been a lot of people who have kind of been downplaying the excitement for Doomsday because of some of the decisions they made, because of bringing back Robert Downey Jr., because of bringing back Chris Evans. It feels like maybe they're kind of trying to play the same old hits over and over again, and maybe a lot of the stars that they tried to establish over the last however many years, they're kind of putting to the side. I will say, this was one of the first trailers where I felt like they weren't doing that. It feels like the Wakandans and Shuri is going to be a big part of this story. Obviously, the Fantastic Four is going to be a big part of this story. So I'm getting more and more excited with everything I see from this whole situation, from this movie. I thought this teaser is really excellent. One thing I do want to say on this Very interesting comment. One of the Russo brothers, I don't think it was their Russo brothers account. I think it was one of them, had posted the teaser and said, "These are not teasers. These are clues. You guys need to be paying attention much closer than you are, because we've been, putting them out as teasers." They're saying that it's clues. I don't know what that means, but it is extremely interesting and extremely noteworthy that they're telling fans that this is, because we've been saying, like, why are they doing this really bizarre kind of rollout? This is almost an unprecedented kind of rollout. Why are they doing it this way? And according to the Russos, there's a lot more to this than what meets the eye. I'm trying to see if I can find the exact post from them earlier today that as far as what they said. And here, this is from 8 hours ago. I'll see if I can put up my screen share. So here's what they said. Assuming this works again, because bear with me, because sometimes this is a hit or miss game here. All right. So far as a black screen, let's hope it shows something. Eventually, nope, doesn't show anything. What if I do this? Yeah, there you go. So this was what they put on Instagram. What you've been watching for the last 4 weeks are not teasers or trailers. They are stories. They are clues. Pay attention. Doomsday has begun. I'm trying to figure out what this means. I will put out, and this is based on almost nothing, pure speculation, pure theory. Is it possible that what we are seeing is what, like, is already happening? Like, how do I say this? They shot scenes potentially that, like, Doomsday is already going on right now, like let's say in real time, and by the time we get to see it in the movie theaters, like this introduction to the Fantastic Four, Thor praying to gods, Cyclops fighting some Sentinels, like, has some of this stuff already happened? And we're like, pay attention to this because, like, this stuff has happened, and then you're gonna show up in Doomsday, and then, like, we're gonna be on all systems go from right at the jump. I don't think so, but the scenes are weird. Like, let's be real. Like, the scenes are kind of like the Steve Rogers one. Okay, that feels more like a teaser. But these other ones with this long kind of like exposition that it's a lot of exposition. Like, if those were actual scenes, that's a lot of exposition in a scene about just like, this is the worst in the world. We don't know what's going on, and just hug and kiss my family. Like, it's kind of weird to have 3 of these scenes. Like, in theory, there may be another trailer that comes out. Part of me is kind of wondering, is this, again, something that's already happened? Like, we saw in Fantastic Four, apologies for spoilers, we saw in Fantastic Four, Doom showed up. Bro is already here. He showed up and he took Franklin, or he was with Franklin. Is it possible that the story has continued since then? Then we obviously saw New Avengers, then you see obviously the ship coming in. Like, is it possible that, like, there's stuff that's happening off camera, off screen that we don't know about, that we'll maybe kind of get kind of like sped up to? Is this kind of like Star Wars, where we get kind of a scroll about what's happening and then they drop us into what's going on? I don't know, but and this could be just a nothing burger, but that's a weird thing to post. I'll show it to you guys one more time. Again, soon my screen, yeah, it's cooperating this time. What you've been watching for the last 4 weeks are not teasers or trailers. They are stories. They are clues. Pay attention. This is a Reddit thread. I guess I can, in theory, search to see what they got. No, I don't know if anybody's got any theories here. If you got any theories in the thread, feel free to let me know, because I'm all ears on what this could possibly be. Just saying they're not teasers, but doesn't mean that they're not teasers, bro. It's kind of funny. Let's read these comments. Whatever you got, I want to hear. I want to hear. I also saw something interesting as well. I don't have the sound here. But shout out to John Campia. He said, someone asked him a good question. And Campia, he's pretty plugged in. I know he's not, sometimes not everyone's cup of tea, but he's pretty plugged in what's going on in these movies. He said, he was asked a good question. And apologies, I'm not giving you a spoiler, to be clear. But if you don't want to know anything about what's being said out there, then I guess pause the stream or mute me for 5 seconds and then come back. But he was asked, do they even address this whole deal with why Doom looks like Tony Stark? His answer is no. But that the answer is then in Secret Wars. So I don't know what that actually ends up meaning either. This is going to be, I think, a very unorthodox storytelling in terms of how they're doing a lot of this stuff. There's still more rumors coming about who could be in this movie. The word earlier was that Famke Janssen was not in this movie. Then I saw some reports that she is in this movie. So there's a lot out there, man. There's a lot out there. Let's see what else we got in the comments. Again, if you want to talk about anything we talk about in the show, you can always drop in the comment section. I'm reading comments from both Instagram and on YouTube. I don't have any comments on Twitter. I don't know if you can actually comment live on Twitter, so apologies if you're putting those I don't see. This was from Matt D. Grades again. Let me just close this so you can see his actual message. But he said, you already said it, but how do you feel about Robert Downey Jr. as Doom? I know the multiverse has been established, but I can't see him as anyone but Iron Man. I did not love it when it was announced. I'm being real. I did not love it when it was announced. I was pretty steadfast that I thought this was kind of, I don't know if I want to say lazy casting, because he's an excellent actor and he probably will do a good job. My concern was I didn't really want to see any connection from Doom to Iron Man. Do Doom and Iron Man have run-ins in the comics? Yes. Are they kind of rivals? Sure. Doom's number one ops are the Fantastic Four. He has ops with the Avengers. He has ops with everybody because he's Dr. Doom. But his number one ops are the Fantastic Four, and his number one op of anybody is Reed Richards. Putting potentially Tony Stark in that role feels unnecessary and feels like you don't know how to move on from the post Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark world. So you're just going back to that tree and you're actually connecting a character that has so much history, so much lore, so much of their character motivation is centered around Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four. To take that away and put that on Iron Man, I don't like. I don't. Now, again, I go back to what I just said. John Campea is saying there is no commentary about why Doom looks like Robert Downey Jr. / Tony Stark. Now, maybe it's because we don't see his mask. Or see his face, rather. Maybe the first movie, we never see his face, so that it doesn't come up. And maybe it will come up in the second movie. I have no idea. But when you deal in this world of variants, I don't think that I was ever interested in the idea of Doom being a variant of Tony Stark. I'm sorry. It just does not interest me. Doesn't mean they can't tell a great story. Doesn't mean they can't tell a story that's fun. Doesn't mean it can't be something that's good. It just is not something I am looking for. So I have never been the biggest fan of it. I'm going to give it a great shot, and I'm excited, and I'm becoming more and more excited about this movie. The Downey aspect of it is not the thing that excites me all that much. It's really the other stuff around it, and the fact that Doom is just here, the fact that we have Dr. Doom finally in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But the casting of him, no, I'm not exactly as excited about that. What else we got here? Oh, we got we gotta keep it going, man. I love this aspect. By the way, again, if you want to comment on what's going on, man, get in that comment section. If you're watching on Twitter, if I can't see your comments on Twitter, go on Instagram Live or go on YouTube and follow us. Again, New Generation Media, where you'll find the stream on YouTube. This was from my guy Eric. I was talking about Cyclops. He said he thinks Cyclops will probably be on Battle World. Definitely agree with that. That would make a lot of sense in terms of Secret Wars. What else we got here? I'll go back to Matthew Graves, who put up, let's see if I can put this up here. Sounds like maybe currently it's happening. We'll see. Now, I'll talk about the theme, about what is these teases. And if I had to give you any, I don't know if I believe my own theory, but if it's a theory, if this is not teasers, these are trailers, I had to guess what the hell that they're talking about, that'd be the only thing I can guess, is that this all is happening currently. It's all happening currently, and this is continuing, and we're going to jump right into a story that's full tilt. So Matthew responds to that saying, sounds like maybe it's currently happening. Maybe we'll see the aftermath at the beginning of Doomsday. Then we get a movie's worth of recap and build up. That's possible too. Again, I think this is going to be very unorthodox. I think this is gonna be very unorthodox because, again, they are weird teasers. Like I keep saying, like they work for teasers, but again, there's these long expositions that don't feel like it would be movie. It doesn't feel to me like it would be movie dialogue. So if you're telling me they filmed something different and they're playing this to say, hey, pay attention to this because you're gonna be locked into this as being part of the world that we're in, that could be something we're looking at. Again, this is a fun part of this show, man. We're talking Black Panther, Fantastic Four. Real quickly on the superhero front before I get out of here in terms of the superhero front. We'll talk about some NBA stuff in a second. Other big news, other side of the landscape, DC. Didn't get to it this morning, which I wanted to because our stream got cut off. Didn't get to it yesterday because we just talked about a bunch of stuff. But it was important. I did want to make sure I did at least comment on it. So Sebastian Stan is going to be playing Harvey Dent in Batman 2. So this is the Matt Reeves Batman movies. We know, obviously, it's been a long time with him trying to put together this film. We were informed about Scarlett Johansson being in line to play Gilda Gold / Gilda Dent, which then meant, obviously, Harvey Dent was going to be in this movie. And here you got Sebastian Stan, who's been cast to play Harvey Dent in the Batman 2. A lot of people, I think, are a little surprised that this is the route we're going in terms of villain, right? Like, I think if you watch the Batman 1, I think you assume this is going to be probably a quarter-hour story. It doesn't seem like we're going anywhere near a quarter of hours. We're going to a Two-Face story, it seems like. Sebastian Stan as Harvey Dent, I think, is a great casting. I think playing the tortured, two-sided, charming, but then also homicidal lunatic character seems right up Sebastian Stan's lane. I definitely think he could play the prosecutor that is again charismatic and engaging and has Gotham hope. I think he also could play again this ruthless villain that becomes Two-Face. So casting is A1. I'm excited about the casting in terms of just the fit. The Gilda Gold aspect to this and the Long Halloween aspect to this is a little bit of a twist from what we've seen from Two-Face in previous iterations of Batman movies. I will say, I kind of was hoping we get something not so recent from what we've already seen. And I will be clear. I know The Dark Knight was a while ago now. It doesn't feel that way to me, and it's an indication I'm getting old, but it still doesn't feel that long ago that we just had Two-Face. The Dark Knight to me does not feel that long ago. Albeit I was apparently in high school, or I was a freshman in college. So that's 15 years at this point. I think 2009 is when the Dark Knight came out. We're in 2026. Okay, I get why you could say, hey, it's okay, we could do Two-Face again. I was hoping maybe we get someone like Mr. Freeze. Or again, we do get a Court of Owls, even though the Court of Owls has been done quite a little bit in the comics and in the animated movies and animated shows. But I was kind of hoping we go that route. That being said, Harvey Dent and Sebastian Stan feel like a match made in heaven. So I am psyched about this movie. I am psyched about this casting. And it seems like this movie is finally revving up. There's, if you listen to Hero Talk, my brother Shamari is a massive Matt Reeves fan. He's a big, big fan of the Batman 1 movie, like we all were. He's been going crazy about how it's taking so long to get this movie off the ground, and we know a script's ready, and now there's some big casting. This looks like this cast is going to be legit. I mean, you're talking about a cast that already has Robert Pattinson, already has Colin Farrell, already has, who else was in the first movie? All of the, Jeffrey Wright. Now you added Scarlett Johansson, and now you added Sebastian Stan. Feels like this is going to be a great, great movie. One thing my dad mentioned and has people questioning too is when you think about the Marvel side, is it possible that this also spells doom for Bucky? Because we're going into Doomsday, no pun intended. We're going into Doomsday, and we know characters are probably going to be off because it's Doomsday and it's Doctor Doom, and it's just like wrestling. You got to put him over. You got to put over the monster heel. He's got to be able to put down some baby faces who are some expendable people that we could probably move on from. Bucky's story feels probably about as complete as we could make it. He never got to be Captain America, but besides that, we've seen everything I think we need to see probably for the Winter Soldier. So is this an indication that Bucky will not be in Secret Wars and therefore can do the Batman? Or is it an indication that he's not going to be in the Marvel Cinematic Universe moving forward so that he can be in the Batman 2 or even 3? If there's a third, then he needs to be a part of that. It's a good thing to bring up. It's interesting. I don't know the answer for sure, but I do think that was a good point by my dad, a point that people are making, and it's something to pay attention to when we think about the future when it comes to Sebastian Stan and his role here in the Batman 2. So I'll get one more last one in here from my guy Matthew Graves there, who's been awesome commenting here on the show. And I could put down my other lower third so you can see what he said. But Matthew here saying, I like to see a movie about Hush. I forget his name in the comics, but the guy who gets plastic surgery to take over Bruce Wayne like a superhero face-off. I agree. Hush was the other guy I think a lot of people thought made a lot of sense. And I agree. I think Hush would have been amazing. What's been difficult about Hush is every iteration of him outside of the comics has sucked. They did a Batman Hush animated movie. Very disappointing. Batman Hush has an appearance, I think, in Arkham Knight, I want to say. And it's kind of disappointing. Like, he's also, I think, in Gotham. And it is or no, not Gotham. I think he's in Batwoman. And it's the worst of them all. It's terrible. So we all love Hush, but then for people who read the comic, which is an iconic comic, one of the newer iconic comics from Jeff Loeb, but then the people that have tried to do Hush have not done him justice. So for me, not for anybody else, I want to speak for myself, I've kind of been like, I want to see Hush, but man, they're not going to do it right. Then I would just say forget it. But yes, I think Hush was another character a lot of fans also were interested in. I think he also would have been a good fit as well. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to be someone they consider now, considering we're into Harvey Dent mode for sure. Let's get back to the basketball stuff before we get out of here, man. I got to regret what I heard today, which was one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. Draymond Green, who touts himself as Mr. New Media, who touts himself as like, I got to be the new voice of the media because these people who are conventional media don't know basketball. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. And the new media with the athletes telling the stories is the way to go. And okay, whatever. We can have our opinions about that. But that's been his crusade for the last however many years. He has what seems like a pretty successful podcast, the Draymond Green Show. But on that podcast, he puts out there things that, to me, are just idiotic. And this trade idea he put out there was about as dumb as I could have imagined. And you see things online and you think, man, this, I saw this and I thought this has to be NBA Central. This has to be Ball Sack Sports. This can't be real. Because when I first read it, I first did not know who the source was. But I want to make sure I pull up the actual tweet because you guys can see for yourself what I saw was a proposal for the Knicks to be a dark horse candidate to trade for Ja Morant. And I'm pulling up the tweet right now so you guys who are watching the stream can see it. I wanted to play his sound, which I found earlier, but then couldn't find. I don't know if he scrubbed it because he realized how stupid it was or whatever. But I haven't been able to find it since. But this was the sound. This was the tweet that I saw, and I'll share my screen again. This came from Draymond Green. You'll see it in a second. Draymond Green. So it says, NBA Central. The New York Knicks are a dark horse team for Ja Morant. I saw this and I almost fell out of my chair. I was like, what? How the hell is that going to happen? Why the hell is that going to happen? What is going on here? So I didn't even see the @MoneyGreen23. I just saw the Knicks are a dark horse team. And I'm like, what? What? Who? When? How? Why? And then I saw, wait a minute, per Draymond Green, what the hell? An NBA player has sources for players that may get traded to other teams, and the Knicks are the sources that he has, and the Knicks are going to trade for Ja Morant. You got to bridge this up in Brooklyn. That sounds like one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. And then I got a quote to confirm how stupid it is. Because apparently he said, a dark horse I throw out there is the New York Knicks. I haven't seen any reports linking to them. So then why the hell are you talking about this? How are you making the Knicks a dark horse team to acquire a player when there has been no link to the player? You're just making something up. Like, or maybe use a better choice of words. Maybe saying, I think a team that should get into the Ja Morant mix would be the New York Knicks. When you say they're a dark horse, it actually suggests that you're saying that, oh, they actually are talking to the Grizzlies. Like, they're in the mix. Dark horse means you're one of the under-the-radar candidates for X thing you're talking about. That's what a dark horse means. You're the underdog, so to speak. That's not how you, the word usage was totally wrong. Knicks are not a dark horse with Ja Morant. They're not linked to Ja Morant. But anyway, he says, a dark horse I throw out there is the New York Knicks. I haven't seen any reports linking them, but imagine Ja Morant at Madison Square Garden. I don't want to imagine that. That's box office. Needless to say, if Ja Morant is traded, whatever team lands him instantly gets better. Make no mistake, when you have that level of talent, your team improves overnight. Is this not moronic to you? Like, am I going crazy? Like, is this not one of the dumbest things you've ever heard in terms of a team building? And that's the only thing that pisses me off. Like, people can have opinions about whatever, and that's fine. I'm not someone who actually really tries to judge folks on, like, their views of sports. It's sports. It's not that big a deal. What does annoy me is when you have folks like Draymond Green who go out of their way to call people in the media, people who cover the basketball, or fans, call people idiots and morons and people who don't know anything about basketball, don't know anything about sports, and say that I'm the guy who actually knows all and I'm going to replace all you people. And then you say stupid crap like this. Then you say stupid crap like, imagine Ja Morant at Madison Square Garden. I guarantee you not one Knicks fan is wanting to imagine Ja Morant in a Knicks uniform. Not happening. Does not want that. We saw him play against the Knicks a couple of months ago. He looked drunk on the court. He must have had 6 turnovers in the first half. Ja Morant, and let me say this about Ja, to be clear. It's been terrible at Memphis this year. He looks like he doesn't want to be there. He's played terrible. Do I think that he can go somewhere and maybe turn back the clock and, like, have some value and, like, a little bitty post-trade bump? I do. I wouldn't just throw him out completely as someone who can't be a productive player in the NBA or be a star. I still think he can do that. Can he be the best player on a championship? No. That was a question when he was, when he got to Memphis. He was pushing the Memphis Grizzlies to the number 1 seed, in the Eastern Conference. Those were legitimate questions. They're not legitimate questions now. He's not that kind of guy. But can he still be a star? Can he still be an all-star point guard? Can he still help a team win? 100%. The other stuff, like the bottom, I don't necessarily disagree with Draymond per se. But there's so many things wrong with this. A, the Knicks have a franchise point guard, a guy who is an MVP candidate in Jalen Brunson. Why would they trade for Ja Morant? It makes no sense. Ja Morant's going to come off the bench as a $50 million backup point guard? Are you going to start Ja Morant, who plays no defense, next to Jalen Brunson, who also doesn't play any defense? And you got 2 guys, one that's 6'1", the other guy is 6'3". Who the hell are they going to guard? How are they making the money match? Are they trading OG Anunoby? Are they trading Karl Anthony Towns? How are you getting Ja Morant? And again, Draymond, who always seems to incessantly want to talk about the Knicks, wants to talk about whether or not they can win championships, wants to talk about Karl Anthony Towns and who he's afraid of. And he always has the Knicks in his mouth, because I do think that Knicks fans, because they are a certain way, and I'm one of them, so be clear, we don't duck any smoke, so we will give it back to you when you talk bad about our team. And Draymond likes trash talk, so he likes engagement. And it's also good for his brand, it's good for his company. He's not a dummy in that regard. So he likes throwing himself out there for the Knicks. But this one felt desperate. This one felt like, okay, bro, I see what you're doing here. Because this is idiotic. I actually think you're better than this. I think you know this is ridiculous. You know that there's no way the Knicks, A, really have the means to acquire Ja Morant in a way that would make their team better. And B, there's no reason why a team that you keep saying doesn't have what it takes to win a championship. That was his whole big thing last year. Was everybody's mad at me. I'm just telling the truth about the Knicks and Karl Anthony Towns, that they don't have what it takes to win a championship. They don't have the mental fortitude. They don't have the toughness. They don't have the blah, blah, blah to win a championship. And that's his opinion. That's fine. We can argue that. So you want to add Ja Morant to that mix? You want to add a guy who was shooting guns at a club and said it was because of his stress and he couldn't deal with the pressures of what was it like to be a franchise player? You want to throw him into a championship or bust team in New York City? You think that's going to be the answer to get the Knicks back to playing championship basketball? The championship basketball you say that they can't play currently because of their roster? again, if you're gonna talk about new media and talk about other idiots don't know what they talk about, and I'm the guy who knows what you talk about, well, hold yourself accountable to some stuff you said. You're the one that said that this team doesn't have what it takes to win a title. But then you're saying they should get Ja Morant because he's, quote, I'm gonna highlight it so you can see it. Box office. What are we talking about, man? What are we actually talking about? I mean, this was, I know, shout out to CP the franchise. I know he does worst take of the week or worst take of the day or whatever. I'm sure this will be his worst take on Knicks Fan TV. I saw this and I could not believe it. And the range of emotions I went through to first see headline NBA Central, the Knicks are a dark horse team for Ja Morant, and being like, are there CBA rules I don't know about that are going to allow the Knicks to just steal Ja Morant from somebody? How does that make any sense? And then to see the source was Draymond Green. I'm like, what world am I living in? This truly has become a complete bizarre world that this was even a conversation. Just absolute foolery from Draymond Green talking about Ja Morant joining the Knicks. Give me a freaking break. And then finally, we'll wrap the show with something that I think is a nice little party shot. Interesting news with the Lakers. Lakers apparently very unhappy with LeBron James's camp, and namely Rich Paul, LeBron James's agent, the president of Clutch Sports, one of the biggest sports agencies in the NBA. Now in all sports too, because they do football as well. I don't think they do baseball yet. Maybe they do. Apologies if they do. But a mega sports agency launched by Rich Paul with the help of LeBron James, and he's become a celebrity in his own right. He's obviously he's engaged to Adele. He's been on reality shows. He's become a celebrity, Rich Paul. And he recently launched a podcast with The Ringer with Max Kellerman, who also is people have been waiting to see what Max Kellerman was going to do, because he, of course, had the big divorce with Stephen A. Smith from First Take, and he had been kind of just like on the sidelines for a while before. Now he's kind of recently reappeared. He did obviously some boxing. Now he's doing this podcast with Rich Paul, and they've been making a lot of comments. I'll be honest, a bizarre sight. It's weird to see an agent giving takes on like the NBA and like what teams should do, and like this is very odd. I would assume that if you're doing that, you have an ulterior motive to help your clients. But at the same time, it also sometimes looks like Rich Paul is just there because he wants to get takes off. Like he's just there because this is what he preferred to actually be doing, as opposed to like doing the job that he actually does. Because what I think a lot of these new media type folks realize is doing this is very fun. Like doing sports commentary, covering sports, covering athletes. It is a fun job. It's not an easy job, but it's not, there's a lot of folks who are doing real, true hard labor that's helping our communities, helping our cities, helping our country. And, this is, light work compared to those people. So they like this stuff. And Rich Paul's gotten in his bag. So he's been doing these podcasts, and he's been making some comments that just seem a little bit odd. If, again, the goal is to help your client and also not upset the apple cart of where your client is playing, and not to kind of upset the league, he don't seem to care, because he has been very open about his thoughts on anything involving the NBA. He made a comment about how the Bucks, if they trade Giannis, should trade him to Atlanta Hawks for Jalen Johnson, who happens to be his client. I'm just like, so I guess that confirms that Jalen Johnson would be totally okay with going to the Milwaukee Bucks. Because why the hell would you then suggest that a team should trade for your client and get him out of the team that he's in? So that to me was odd. He's made other comments earlier in the year about the Knicks and whether they should get LeBron James, and any team would be happy to have LeBron James. Like, well, LeBron James is under contract. He's playing for the Los Angeles Lakers right now. So what are we talking about? Apparently, this podcast has frustrated the Lakers. And a lot of it's come from some of his recent comments. So there was one a couple of weeks ago that I don't have for you right now, but he was talking to Max Kellerman about the Lakers and where they stand, and he said that they're not title contenders. That they're not title contenders. There's no way they can beat the Thunder, and he doesn't think they even stack up well with a team like the Rockets or the Nuggets. So I was like, all right, if you think that, and you're the advocate for LeBron James, I would assume LeBron James also thinks that they're not title contenders. Considering he's in year 23, which he is now wearing on his jersey to tell everybody, I imagine he doesn't appreciate his time being wasted on a team that he doesn't think is a title contender, which leads to other perhaps kind of weird situations regarding his time in LA that you would put that out there. Then he made these comments talking about the Lakers now and then talking about personnel moves that they should make. Listen to this from Rich Paul on this podcast with Max Kellerman.
Lakers. If I was the Lakers, I would probably be targeting the Memphis Grizzlies as a trade partner
For?
Jaren Jackson.
Yeah. That'd be a great fit.
I would.
For whom?
Well, that's the thing, because you got to figure out the package. But some way, somehow, I would be trying to get Jaren Jackson, maybe get back Gigi Jackson.
So now you have Rich Paul, LeBron James' agent, saying, not just saying, oh, we're not title contenders. I'm telling you the moves that I think, I put in quotation marks, that you should make to help this team become a title contender. I'm saying I in quotation marks. Again, you're the advocate for LeBron James. Why would you publicly be putting out there trade proposals for the Los Angeles Lakers that LeBron wouldn't co-sign? So this LeBron James and him working as LeBron James' mouthpiece is putting it on a podcast that I think that we should trade for Jaren Jackson. Okay, in a vacuum, Jaren Jackson, could he help the Lakers? In theory, sure. All right, but what would it take? The price that Rich Paul suggests, quite steep.
If you're able to trade out expirings and give up the last first-round pick you got, that could be one scenario, right? Or you can say, let me withhold that, but this comes with
Austin Reeves.
This comes with a very unemotional attachment because Austin is beloved, which he should be.
But he's about to get paid.
He's an underdog. And here's the thing. If there's a world where you can do what's best for your team and do what's best for Austin, because Austin deserves to get paid.
Do what's best for Austin, or just trade his ass to the Memphis Grizzlies. I mean, come on, bro. This don't seem very transparent to you. Seems very transparent to me what's happening. Like, LeBron James, who was out with an injury, and Luka was also banged up as well, allowed Austin Reeves to take on this mantle as, like, and I said this on Maggie and Perloff's show, and second time I've said a basketball take on Maggie and Perloff's show, they got laughed by everybody else, and I proved to be right. One was that Jalen Brunson was going to have his number retired at the Garden. People thought I was crazy, and that looks like that's going to happen at some point. Two, I was like, I think Austin Reeves is the next NBA star. He looks like he's a star. And then I got laughed, oh, Austin Reeves, blah, blah. Well, it looks like he's going to make his first All-Star game this year. He's having a career year. But this don't look transparent to you? So, yes, Austin Reeves has a contract coming up, for sure. The Lakers got him kind of on this weird dirt cheap deal that they're not going to be able to keep him to. He's going to have to get probably a max contract when his contract comes up. But Austin Reeves is having a phenomenal season. In the games in which LeBron James went out and Luka was kind of in and out of the lineup, I'm not kidding, he was averaging like almost 30 points a game. He was one of the best offensive guards in the NBA during that time. And his numbers this season, for the whole season, are phenomenal. I'm going to try to see if I can bring that up for you. But right now, he has a player option for 2020, 2027. We know for a fact he's not going to re-sign that because he's putting up, again, all-star caliber numbers. He's been injured, but when he was healthy, Austin Reeves was averaging 26 points a game, averaging 6 assists. These are elite guard numbers. This is like a little Jeremy Lin, little story of a couple of good weeks and no big deal. This guy is balling, and like I said, he looks like one of the new stars of the league when it comes to the best guards in the NBA. Again, averaging 26 points. He's shooting 50% from the field, 36 from three. He's averaging 6 assists. He's averaging 5 rebounds. He's not a great defensive player, but he is a baller. And he's been one of the better stories in the NBA this year for a Laker team that when LeBron was out, was playing great basketball. LeBron comes back. Now they're thinking, okay, we got LeBron, we got Luka, we got Reeves now, who looks like a star. let's see what we got here. Didn't look that good. And you know who stood out as not quite fitting into that role? LeBron James. He's the one that didn't look like he fit into that role that well. He looked like the third banana. He didn't look like he had really a place in this new world that was being created with the Lakers, where it was the Luka and Austin Reeves show. And that's funny, during Christmas, I remember like they had like a little fun little like story they did with David Meneman. Like, I guess Austin Reeves and Luka have kind of become like frenemies, kind of similar to, I guess, like kind of like Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson for the Knicks, if you follow Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson in their dynamic, where they tease each other a lot, they make fun of each other, they kind of nudge each other, and they rib each other a lot, but they're very close now in a short amount of time. Again, that's not the relationship LeBron seems to have with these guys. So I saw this, and I hear Rich Paul, who's looking out for the best interest of LeBron James. I don't even have to put that in quotation marks. That's a fact. We know he's looking out for the best interest of LeBron James. I see that, and I hear Rich Paul saying, yeah, you should get Jaren Jackson. Okay, you have a problem at center. Jaren Jackson doesn't play center, really. He's a terrible rebounder, and his defense has slipped a little bit. But he is a good shot blocker. He is a good shooter. He is a good offensive player. And in theory, he is very versatile. So, okay, in a vacuum, that makes sense. Okay, good. Now go trade the new star for the Lakers. Trade the guy that my guy is not fitting in with quite well and get him out of there. But, it's to help him. It's so that he can get paid so that he can be a star. Why can't he get paid with the Lakers? The Lakers probably would prefer that LeBron, you just get the hell out of there so they can pay Austin Reeves and move on with their lives with Austin Reeves and Luka Doncic as the new faces of the franchise. But that's not in the best interest of LeBron James, which is why I think Rich Paul is saying this. And that's why the Lakers are like, what the hell, bro? What are you doing? Why are you putting these comments out publicly? Like, what is going on? And again, that's where Jovan Buhar comes in. He's a longtime Lakers reporter. He does obviously a live stream as well. Shout out to him. And he is reporting Lakers not happy with what's happening with Rich Paul.
I can confirm that, people have not been happy. I'm not going to go more specific than that, but I would just say people have not been happy with that pod and some of the comments, especially I feel like there was some of the initial stuff, like there was they're not contenders, right? And that was one thing, and even some people inside that building might believe that at the core if you gave them truth serum. It was like one thing to think that privately, one thing to put that out.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, again, this is LeBron James' agent and his very close friend, and again, his pseudo mouthpiece saying, yeah, the Lakers, man, they're not title contenders. It's like, all right, like, we know there are only a few title contenders, and the Thunder are a great team, and the Spurs are a great team, and the Thunder and the Nuggets are a great team. Rockets look like they could be also a great team. But we got put out there, we don't think we have a shot to win a title. Like, that's not what we want out there publicly from essentially one of our star players. And then again, this is Jovan talking about the comments regarding getting Austin Reeves out of here.
Some of the stuff that has come out since, most notably, I think recently, this whole trade Austin Reeves for Jaren Jackson Jr., who they basically averaged the same amount of rebounds, and that would have been an interesting trade a year ago, but Austin Reeves is just a straight up better player than Jaren Jackson Jr. and has more trade value than Jaren Jackson Jr. So I actually think if Memphis wants to throw in multiple picks and G.G. Jackson, then maybe that's a conversation, but the general framework of just Triple J for Austin Reeves straight up does not make any sense, in my opinion, from the Lakers side.
Yeah, Jaren Jackson, again, he's been an all-star player. He is a good player. This year, averaging about 18 points a game, shooting 47% the field, 36 from 3, averaging about a block and a half per game. That's down from a couple years ago when he was one of the candidates for Defensive Player of the Year. He had 3 blocks per game. Steals are also a little bit down as well. He's less than a steal per game. He's been a minus in the plus-minus section this year. So Jackson's having a down year. Like, there's no question about that. This has not been Jaren Jackson's best year. Now, could it be Memphis is kind of a... Ironically, they've actually been okay. Like, they've been winning some games. Like, they haven't been a complete dumpster fire, but there's been a lot of noise, a lot of mess. It's definitely not what it was a couple years ago when the Grizzlies looked like they were going to be one of the up-and-coming rising teams of the NBA. So it's a situation where he's just not all that happy, and therefore his play is suffering, or that the fact that Ja Morant also has been so up and down, is that also part of the reason why it's hurt Jackson's production? Maybe. But again, you got a star point guard at 27 years old, averaging 26 points a game, and say, let's trade him for a third cog. It doesn't make all that much sense if you really think about it. You could probably get a lot more for Austin Reeves than Jaren Jackson. But again, for LeBron James' sakes and how he is fit, Jaren Jackson is a very good fit with him. Okay, Jaren Jackson can't rebound, that's fine. I'm 6'8", 250. I can go rebound. But I do need somebody who can watch my back in the defensive side and block some shots. And via LeBron James, I do need more shooting. I need a big that can stretch the floor, because any team that LeBron has had success with, whether it was the Heat with Chris Bosh, whether it was the Cavs with Kevin Love, they've had bigs that can, or even like the Lakers with Anthony Davis, they've had bigs that can stretch the floor. So I need a 5 who can stretch the floor. Jaren Jackson can stretch the floor. That makes sense from that standpoint. So again, from LeBron's standpoint, I don't fit with Austin Reeves. I fit better with Jaren Jackson. Also, I can be back to being at least the second cog, not the number 3 cog on this team. It looks very transparent what Rich Paul is trying to do. And finally, this was the last note from Jovan Buha, who talked about how it's just very odd that you have this kind of comments come from Rich Paul in this podcast.
But yeah, it's been some interesting comments coming out of that, because that is uncommon for an agent to be commenting on his player's team to this degree and saying basically, I would trade this guy, especially a guy who's sort of in contract competition for his client. So yeah,
it's weird, man. And I've been watching this, and you know what Rich Paul and what LeBron have created is very aspirational for a lot of folks, and in a vacuum, it's a great story. This is a rags to riches story. LeBron being what he went through to become what he became, and him bringing his friends along. I feel like almost any person who has close friends from their childhood, from their high school days, can relate to this and think this is super cool. And to see, especially young black men doing this, it's super dope from that standpoint. In a vacuum, that's really awesome. So there are a lot of people who see Rich Paul doing things unorthodox, see Rich Paul and how he's moved, and when he's faced some criticism, there have been a run to defend Rich Paul, and sometimes for a good reason, for doing things different than other people, because he got here in an unorthodox way. But I've been seeing this podcast, and I'm just like, I've been watching these clips before even this report about the Lakers being upset about it, and being like, no one else finds this strange. Like, I understand he's Rich Paul. I understand this. They kind of Clutch plays by his own different rules, and I'm not trying to be a hater, because everything where everybody wants to run to, oh, you don't get it, or you're just a hater. I promise, I'm not a hater. But I've been watching Rich Paul talk about, oh yeah, they should trade for my client. The Bucks should trade for my client and send them to Milwaukee. I'm like, is that tampering? Like, can you just put out there that you think teams should trade for your own client under the guise of, well, I'm just podding. It's not actual tampering. I'm just podding. I'm not actually making moves and making calls. I'm just putting things out there. We're just creating content. And then I see this stuff, and the Lakers are seeing even more. It's becoming more and more brazen to me with like what he's willing to say about the Laker team building process, when you have a megastar in LeBron James on the team, who we know is in this kind of weird limbo with the squad, where the squad is very obviously ready to kind of move on from their LeBron James era. And LeBron James wants to be set up on easy street for how his retirement is going to go. He wants to either be the man on a Lakers team that's competing for a title, and that's really it. I don't think he actually really wants to go anywhere else, because if he really did, I think he would have got himself out of there. I think he really wants to live in LA. I think he really wants to stay in LA. If you're a famous person and you make the money he makes, LA is the best place to live probably in America. So, especially as a celebrity. So he wants to stay in LA. But he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He also wants to be the star of the playing team. He also wants to get all the money. Like, he also wants to be respected as, a guy that has played for 23 years, and he wants to be able to win a championship. He wants all these other things along with being able to stay in LA, and the Lakers just do not prioritize him anymore. They prioritize Luka Doncic. And now the way Austin Reeves is playing, they're moving towards prioritizing Austin Reeves. I think LeBron doesn't like that, which is why I think you have Rich Paul making these totally bizarre comments on the podcast. I want to leave you with one thing before we get out of here. It was the funniest thing I saw over the weekend, NFL wildcard weekend. So we talked about it a bunch yesterday. The Eagles lose. And you know when you have a embarrassing Eagles loss, there's always going to be some hysterical reaction on the internet, whether it be someone on a live stream going crazy or on a Twitter Spaces, or what we often see, which is, people leaving the stadium and the reaction, the responses to a loss. And that was no different. But this was of a different ilk. Because I think you think of Philadelphia, you think of F-bombs, you think of cursing people out, you think of aggression. That's not quite what you got from this fan, a young guy, young kid, who was at that Eagles game when they lost to the 49ers on Sunday. And you wouldn't believe it, but this was his damn Christmas present.
Yes, this was a huge letdown. This was my Christmas present, and I got a loss.
Oh, no. You probably would have rather had Cole, huh?
Yeah, probably. I'm feeling two of two things. A, I want A.J. Brown packing his bags, and I want him somewhere else that is not here. I love you, A.J., but, you can't make those drops in that game. And I also want Kevin Patullo flipping burgers at, the local McDonald's or something. I don't care.
Why do you say that?
Whenever he's an offensive coordinator, it's like he's flipping burgers. One side, he's cooking. One half, he's cooking. And the other half is completely raw.
Oh, man. Shout out to the young king. Shout out to the young king. That's an Eagles fan who got to go to this Eagles game, reacting to their loss to the Niners. He was like, this was my damn Christmas present. He didn't say damn because apparently I heard in Philly, and I lived there for a year, so I know. It's we teach them, F Dallas when they come out of the womb. This kid kept it clean. So shout out to the kid for keeping it clean on television. But no cursing, no middle fingers or anything like that. But he said this was my Christmas present. This really stunk. First thing I want, A.J. Brown out of town. I mean, we talk about a city that bleeds green and white and lives and dies with its football. Again, that is as great as ever you see. You got a kid, that kid must have been no older than 11 or 12 years old. And he's giving you full-on Eagle takes. A.J. Brown, he's got to go. How do you drop the ball? How do you come up small? We need to get you out of here. So he was A.J. Brown gone. Then he goes to Kevin Patullo. Again, how many 11-year-olds around the country know who their team's offensive coordinator is? Very rare, but not in Philadelphia. In Philadelphia, everyone knows everything about the team because they live and die with the birds. So he's talking about Kevin Patullo. I want him out of there. And then he uses the analogy that he needs to be flipping burgers. And then he had the double entendre. Be like, well, he actually is flipping burgers because one side looks like he's cooking, but really the other side is raw. There's nothing happening. I mean, just an absolute hilarious end, I think, to a fun wild card weekend for a lot of people. Not that young fan, not the people in Philadelphia, but I wanted to leave you guys, man, on that note. But that's going to do it for night 2 of 40 Days and 40 Nights. This has been super fun, man. We're getting to the midway point of the week. So we're doing 40 days and 40 nights. So I guess that means, in theory, we're doing 8 weeks of this. Though, like I said, there may be some spot shows that come up over the course of different weekends. So maybe we end up doing a little less than 8 weeks or whoever. And then maybe, of course, never know what happens. I'm knocking on wood that I don't get sick or anything. But if I miss a show there, whatever. But we're going to get to the 40 days, 40 nights regardless. There's going to be 40 days and 40 nights of shows. And we're halfway through week 1. Day 3 is tomorrow morning. So we'll have plenty of obviously great stories to talk about then. Like I've said before, you want to catch this content, 40 days and 40 nights. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, New Generation Media, NU Media, New Generation Media. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you like this video. Make sure you, obviously you people have been commenting, love the comments. Make sure you like, make sure you give us thumbs up, make sure you do everything you can do to support the channel. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. If you are not watching on YouTube, but you want to support our channel as a whole, obviously outside of subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure you check out our podcast channel. We're posting all the episodes of 40 Days and 40 Nights onto our podcast channels on all audio digital platforms. So when you're talking about Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Play, whatever you got, New Generation Podcast Network is where you'll find these shows. Don't search 40 Days, 40 Nights. Search New Generation Podcast Network. Make sure you subscribe to those channels. make sure you give us 5 stars and give us a review. Tell us that you love your boys. Not just me, EJ Stewart, but my brothers Kendall and Shamari Stewart, who I think also are going to be probably be guests soon on 40 Days and 40 Nights. They're a fun time as well. Make sure you listen to shows that they do. They do Imperial Broadcast, a Star Wars podcast that is kick-ass, a really, really awesome show. So check out their podcast. Again, we do all this stuff. We do Hero Talk. We do more Marvel and DC stuff. We have Sports Talk. We have Off Script, a wrestling podcast. All that's on there. It's years and years and years of libraries of episodes. Go check it out. New Generation Podcast Network, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcasts. And the lower third here, or rather the ticker that's been going down, that's where we have all our social media handles. So if you want to follow New Generation Media on social media, at New Generation Pod on X, at New Generation Podcast on Instagram. And again, you want to follow me on social media where I'm streaming live as well. Streaming live on X, follow me, EJ_Stewart on X, Action EJ, where I'm also streaming live on Instagram, where you'll find me on Instagram, Action EJ on Instagram and TikTok. That'll do it for now. Fun day of shows. Glad this one went with no major internet hiccups like day 2 earlier this morning. So totally fun time today. We'll be back tomorrow with another edition of 40 Days and 40 Nights. This is EJ Stewart. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. We'll see you guys soon.